Welcome into a new BuffStampede Radio out of Munsterteiger, the publisher of BuffStampede.com. Joined again by our football analyst, William Gardner. William, I'm coming to you from San Antonio. I was going to come to you poolside today, but it just started sprinkling. The weather's actually, aside from the last couple hours, been pretty moderate out here. So the backup is a very glary room where I can't get this lighting to actually look great, but this is a podcast, so nobody cares about that. They just want to hear us talk about CU. How are you? How was your Christmas?
I'm good. Everything was good. I think the Lord said, if Bill can't be at the poolside, and neither can Adam, but I'll give you a halo. You got a little paper. A little bit, the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away.
Fair enough. I know. I wish you were here with me, and one of these years we've got to make a bowl game trip together and have lots of fun with that. But I'm grateful that you're able to join me on the podcast, though, because we've got a lot to talk about. There's been a bunch of new transfer commits since we last recorded just a week ago, and so we're going to go through them. We're going to talk about some of the prep leading up to the Alamo Bowl and just kind of our expectations going into Saturday's game. I think we should probably start with the transfer news, right? Because this is where a lot of the fan focus is right now. Colorado up to 12 transfer commits. Of these new four guys we're going to talk about, is there one you want to talk about first that you like the most?
Oh, I don't know. Well, you got them listed in the order that I like best, which is punters first, always. Right? Like, let's get the medicine out of the way, and then we could talk about, okay, I'm already being mean to the punters. It's Christmas, for God's sakes. I loved all punters and kickers, love. Santa probably visits them too, unless they're on the naughty list for, being punters and kickers.
But yeah, Damon Reeves, he comes over from Kansas, another Pro Kick Australia product that's going to join the Buffaloes and averaged 42.3 yards per punt at Kansas this fall. So he's got a couple of years of eligibility. He's got that Pro Kick experience that you like. He played at the Power 4 level, so nothing's going to face him in terms of stadiums, going into different environments. So you like being able to fill that role with, I think, an established guy versus going to the high school ranks, right?
Yeah, and you got an older guy, and he's got some, like you said, a lot of times with the punters and the kickers, can they perform under pressure with fans watching? So he's done that. I think some people are concerned that Kansas was last in net punting, but that's got so many things to do beyond just the punter. I think if you're averaging 42.3 a kick, you ought to have a better net average.
Coverage,
but that's big, right. Speaks to me to coverage. Your coverage sucks. So thanks, Kansas. Any free shots at Kansas, I'll take them. Oh, and by the way, we're all Ohio State and Penn State fans this week. Okay, can we all agree on that? Thank you very much. Okay, moving on.
I personally will not be cheering for Oregon, so I can definitely get on board with that.
Yeah. The green jersey jerk team and the blue turf jerk team can both. I got a big fat part that I sit on that.
Okay.
For them.
Well, fair enough. Yeah. The guy that I was the most excited about out of this group is Joseph Williams from Tulsa coming over at receiver. There's a lot of Will Shepherd in his game, isn't there? He's kind of this bigger receiver, 6'2", 195. He's able to go up and get contested catches, averaged 19.6 yards per catch as a freshman, earning AAC Freshman of the Year honors. And he was committed to Utah.
Nice.
Colorado decided to, or he's still decided to visit Colorado. And within about a day of that trip, he was already flipped. So this is a really good young player that has proven at this level that you can plug in and get a lot of production out of.
And that him coming to visit here, we also always said, once you get him in Boulder, you got a pretty good shot. But I'll have to send you, after I get off this podcast, I'll send you a picture of the mountains this morning, which is really beautiful along those lines. It's like a lot of these kids probably never seen anything like this. Although I guess if you took a trip to Utah, you probably saw something. But anyway, I think he's got a lot of Will Shepherd, but the only thing I would say on the other side is that Will Shepherd did it against non-Vanderbilt SEC defenses for a couple of years, and we'll have to wait and see if Williams has that ability to make those big go up and get them high catches, which was really became a forte of Will Shepherd. But that's a nice replacement there, and really helps build up a very stocked wide receiver room with a different kind of a talent than some of the others.
They're bringing in a lot of guys from Texas. It feels like
Yeah.
you've got this kind of Florida connection with Coach Prime, but also a Texas connection with he and his staff. And I think it is kind of lent to the idea that Colorado's a better fit in the Big 12. Yeah, there might be more alumni in the Pac-12 footprint, but from a football standpoint, it just seems to mesh better with them recruiting out of Texas in kind of that area.
Well, I think there's better players and better prepared players in Texas and Florida than there are in California. Some people are big California fans along those lines. There's a lot of players there, but I just think there's an element of toughness and competition that comes from Texas and Florida and Alabama and Mississippi and even Tennessee to North Carolina that you don't find so much in California. I don't know. I just have been less impressed with California. I don't know what I don't know to talk about culture or anything, but there just seems to be an added. Maybe it's the heat and humidity. I don't know, but they're just and even in Southern California, there's so much going on. And high school football is not the religion that it is down in the South. Maybe too.
Yeah.
But these kids come in well prepared. They play against great competition. Blanking on the name, but our other freshman signee, who was the most valuable player in the Texas playoffs, wide receiver,
Quentin Gibson. Yeah,
Gibson. So you can't go wrong with that kind of. He's not going to be shying away from the kind of defensive backs he sees at this level because he's seen that kind of thing.
All right, we got another Texas guy to talk about, and I'm gonna have to practice this pronunciation. It's not gonna roll off the tongue easily. First name, Aki. That's easy. Last name, Ogunbuyi. Ogunbuyi.
I don't think is there.
Ogunbuyi.
Okay, let me say it.
I looked up the pronunciation of his name.
Okay, yeah, and I'm we'll get corrected in the comments on how to say it, and we'll get it right eventually. Not for lack of caring, but just new one. But I'm excited.
We'll call him Aki for now, and then we'll keep practicing that. And by the time he gets on campus, William, it's going to roll off the tongue for us.
Yeah. Ogunbiyi, I think, but I'm excited about adding him to the mix. And I think I said on our board that a guy that's a part-time partial starter for a place like Texas A&M, quite frankly, is still very likely an upgrade on the offensive line for us because we still are not at that level of offensive line. So, as somebody said, he's a grown ass man. He's going into his fifth year and he's 6'4", 315, been in a top program, both from on the field coaching and strength and conditioning position, and he's going to help. I think he, at the very least, can help young guys like Chauncey Gooden develop and give us some really good. I don't know. I think he probably comes in as a starter for us at guard. Just thinking about it, I think I would probably look forward and think him and Khalil Benson would be my first guess at the starting guards for next year, just given the size and experience.
The simple reality is that there are not a lot of first round, second round, third round offensive linemen draft picks, future draft picks in the transfer portal. Because those guys get to their spot, and they're generally pretty happy with their development and what's going on there. See Jordan Seaton at Colorado, right? So you got to take a lot of guys like this, and you hope that enough of them pan out that you have some decent depth up front. And so you love that he was really highly regarded coming out of high school, was their most improved offensive player while redshirting, played some snaps, didn't really reached the potential I think that a lot of folks early in his career there at College Station thought he was going to reach. But this is still a
Yeah.
good football player to add to your roster. And yeah, with 1 year of eligibility, I would definitely not be surprised if he's a starting offensive lineman for them next year.
Yeah, I think he's played in the SEC, both in practice and in games, and he was doing really well early in his career and got a knee injury, and I don't know if that contributed to him not developing further or not. But at a place like A&M, you're going to have you're going to be loaded up with 4 and 5 star offensive linemen, and to not start at a place like that is not necessarily a dishonor or anything. But I think what we need to keep doing is keep bringing in young guys like Cardi Smith and Gooden and Seaton, right? And then this is a kind of a guy that can fill in until they grow up a little bit. And then if we got those kinds of guys in every class from high school, in 3-4 years, we're going to be pretty loaded with draft pick type guys. So right now we're still filling in the top end of the I don't know, the pipeline of offensive linemen, and we're not there yet. I think we got a lot closer on the defensive line last year and so far this year than on the offensive line. But there's a lot of big guys out there, and most of them are not really first rate offensive line talent. And so far we haven't been real good about that in terms of getting the right guys or fitting them in or something. But I think this guy's a really good addition, and I don't know. Quite frankly, I think he's an upgrade at guard for us.
Not to derail this segment too much, but you brought up Party Smith. Happened to see him at SeaWorld yesterday, just being 5 feet away from him. If he's 290 right now, he's going to be like 330 in a couple of years. He is. Yeah. We thought this was going to be the case with him, but he looks like he's going to, within a year, look like an NFL offensive lineman in this program.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you look at both, look at Jordan Seaton when he came in a year ago at this time, and then even the progress that he made before the first game of this season with Coach Mo and our chef, and like they're eating right all the time and they're lifting right, and both of those guys are going to look like, well, I mean, I think Cardi Smith probably got potentially first round NFL talent too. So in a year or two, when those two guys are the bookends, it's going to be something to see. It's going to be pretty impressive.
And we'll talk more about those guys a little bit later. Let's close out talking about the incoming transfers that have committed since our last show. And Tawfiq Byers from USF, safety there, their top-rated safety this past season, committed to the Buffs on Christmas. What would you like here with him?
Well, I like, he really had a breakout season in his sophomore year. He's got 3 years still to play. So he's got, really this is his first year playing, and he had 54 tackles, an interception, and a sack, and they used him both in coverage and in a pass rush. And so he's also another guy with really nice size. If I can find him here, he's about 6'1", 200. So he already comes in with that nice big safety size that we like back there. And so I think he's a guy that can both impact the run game and the passing game. We need to restock that safety position. I think he's a really good addition. And I guess I would remind people there's 12 guys added so far, and the best guys that we're going to get are not in the portal yet. I believe that's my prediction because a lot of those guys are still playing. Or will leave their team after spring or whatever. So as we've seen the last 2 years, this staff is not shy about taking guys after spring either. So do not think that you look at the 12 guys and think this is it, because I still think we need a right tackle. And we'll talk about that for the game coming up. But there's still holes to fill, and we're going to see some really good players still commit to us. I guess it's easy to lose sight of the last couple of years, but you got to remember that Coach Prime and his staff, they don't stop just because it's Christmas, And the first,
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry to cut you off.
They don't stop just because the first portal closes. This just keeps going.
Yeah.
And a lot of go ahead.
And they're tired out here. They're working hard. They want to win this game, but like I was told that the coaches will get back from practice, and while they're waiting for the practice cut ups, I mean, it's transfer portal recruiting. And so it really just never ends. And so it's going from some of these fun events like SeaWorld yesterday. They're going to have a pep
Right.
rally on the Riverwalk today. But it is, I mean, they're grinding. This is not for the faint
Wait,
of heart, that line of work.
so you're saying it's the professional staff and they don't have some fat lard ass who doesn't even show up to practice half the time? Not speaking of anybody who might or might not be a gumball guy or whatever.
I can confirm that is not the case.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I got a head coach that holds you accountable. That's crazy talk. I guess we're still a little jaded. How long is it going to be before we get past the sort of jaded crustiness of the last 15 years?
Well, I think a bowl victory on Saturday would be a nice step in that direction, right?
Yeah,
Because
for
it's been
sure.
since 2004 to get to 10 wins. That would feel pretty nice. But generally, yeah, I think it's slowly wearing off. It just every once
Yeah.
in a while that PTSD will creep back in a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's been for a lot of the fans. I think the old timer fans is sort of, I think it's hard for people to believe, I mean, and it really is kind of hard to believe if you've been through the last 20 years with CU, that this could happen and uh, be ongoing and so positive for CU, so it really is exciting.
Just to close out on Byard, his older brother Kevin Byard is a two-time NFL All-Pro with currently with the Bears, and Byard also visited LSU, Vanderbilt, Washington, so he was a pretty highly regarded transfer. Three to play three, you'll love that. A guy that played, and I was watching some of USF's games. It looked like they were missing him a little bit on the back end of that secondary. That's a good player. I did a interview with our Alabama writer on Jaheim Otis. We talked a lot about Jaheim Otis on our last show. So if you want to hear us talk about him and you missed that, we talked about him and pretty much all those early transfers, about 8 of them on that last show. The main takeaway I had from that, William, is that Otis was primed to be like a first round draft pick, and then injuries kind of just got a little bit in the way. And when you're at Alabama, other guys step up because there's a lot of talent there. And Otis just had a hard time getting back in the mix. And so that's why he left the team midway through the season to preserve that redshirt year. So it really is. If Otis is healthy, he's going to be a superstar, is the takeaway I had from that.
Yeah. And I think that's obvious from his film of his playing time at Alabama, and get him healthy, keep him healthy. And I think I think I got to tell you, along those lines, I think between Coach Mo and our training staff and our facility, that we're ahead of the game in terms of avoiding and rehabbing injuries. And so I think I think that's a good selling point. I hope they're using it, but hopefully we get him back on track and going here. And if he lives up to that first round, a first round draft pick defensive tackle changes everything. Because that kind of a guy destroys the other team's offenses. And how many times have we played against that kind of guy against Utah, and they just ate us alive, And so to have a guy like that on your front seven on defense will cover a lot of weaknesses elsewhere. And not that we have weaknesses elsewhere, but I expect him to be a guy that immediately comes in and reminds people, of what great defensive linemen look like wearing a CU uniform.
There have been obviously players that have left Colorado's program as well. We touched on this a little bit in our last show as well. Guys that were, for the most part, not expected to be back in this program in 2025. I think the big topic here that has gotten some people kind of frustrated is Nikhai Hill-Green landing at Alabama instead of going off to the NFL and it being an NIL situation. Not to just talk about NIL here, but how do you feel about Nikhai Hill-Green playing somewhere else next year?
I don't care. I mean, it's a loss to us for sure. And he had a great season for us, but he's at his 4th place in 5 years, I guess, or yeah, I think it's 4 or 5 years. I mean, the dude's a mercenary. God bless him, and nothing says you can't be one. But I wouldn't trust a guy with anything that mattered to me because he's not going to be there when you need him. But more power to him, I guess. I'm not a guy that chases the big bucks, and so I don't really understand that thinking. I'm the dumbass that joined the Marine Corps and the Navy for 10 years, got paid squat to do far more than what these guys do. But you want to chase the buck, I guess that's the American way, and you don't want to be here, and you're out of my consciousness. I mean, no hard feelings towards you, but I don't cheer for Alabama players. I cheer for CU players, and you ain't one. So goodbye. Now we need to fill
Yeah.
that hole.
Well, I was talking with Brian Howell on an analysis video of like, it just kind of bums you out because you know that Vonta Bentley, for the rest of his life, can come back to Boulder
Yeah.
and be revered.
Oh,
Now, maybe that sounds hypocritical because he started out at Clemson, but Hill Green, had he stayed at Colorado, would
yeah.
have been revered in Boulder forever.
We,
And now he's going to kind of not really have this college home that he can look back to.
and you and I talked about that at length on one of our last two
Okay.
podcasts. I think a lot of people are going to you should go back and look at those because they were pretty good. Adam made me
Yeah.
cry on one of them. I also think that I don't think that, you know, I have to wonder if he didn't get a less than stellar evaluation for the NFL because, he's not going to step right in and be the guy at Alabama like he was here. And I think his playing time will be less, and he's not helping himself in the long term. But, I hope he took all that into account. Not my problem, but if we never hear from him again, I won't be that surprised, to be honest with you. I think he would have been better off go to the next level. And, I don't know the financial situation. You take that first contract, and it's the second contract where you get paid. So I don't know. All the money, man. I would bet it doesn't work out for him, but we'll see. No hard feelings again. Like I said, I don't care one way or the other. But I think if he'd have stayed here or gone to the NFL, he'd be doing a better thing for his future. But whatever.
What about Edge Deion Hayes going to Texas A&M? Wouldn't say forget about him because he was really good at the beginning of the season, but then he got hurt, and so
Yeah.
many different edge players were emerging, and it was like you couldn't even keep track of all these edge guys that were emerging, especially when Keaton Wade comes out of nowhere and starts
Right.
blowing up in the opposing backfields. And Arden Walker is at times playing like an all conference guy. And you've got Tajay McCoy, who's super talented, and he can't even get on the field. And
Yeah.
so I
Sammy
don't think this is
Okunlola.
it'd be kind of nice to have Deion Hayes in the program, but I also kind of
Yeah.
get why he's trying to go somewhere and kind of get a fresh start, maybe.
Well, given the way that Sammy Okunlola and Arden Walker finished the season, Deion Hayes ain't starting here. Period. Ain't starting here. And too bad. I mean, you got hurt. He could have stayed here and played out the I don't know. I don't know what the heck they got at A&M in terms of edge players or whatever. But he wasn't going to beat out Okunlola or Walker here. I don't believe, given the way those two guys played at the end of the season. But it's a loss, and I think he's a damn good player, and I hope he does well down there. But again, you got to make his choices about what he thinks is best for his long-term career, I suppose.
And I'll just run through these other guys pretty quickly. These are guys that have jumped into the portal from Colorado and have landed at other schools so far as commits. Receiver Assad Wasim has committed to FAU. Wide receiver Jordan Onavu has committed to Stanford. Center Yakiri Walker has committed to Memphis, which is also where former Buff quarterback Brendan Lewis and former cornerback Omarion Cooper have committed. Those guys are going to Memphis as well. You've got both offensive tackle Peyton Kirkland and receiver Cordell Russell going to Miami of Ohio. And quarterback Walter Taylor, I saw this morning, has committed to Ball State. I don't want to say anything bad about these guys, and there's some ways that these guys could help you on special teams, but you're not missing a whole lot here.
Well, I think Jordan Onavu going to Stanford, I think is an interesting, and I think good for him, and I think that verifies Coach Prime was saying about what a good player he is. But our receiver room is just so stacked, and so good for him to go get a great education, and maybe Stanford gets things back together in terms of their football as well. But that's a good landing spot for him, and then the others kind of are interesting, I think, in the sense that Yakiri Walker probably should have gone to a place like Memphis last year. He just can't play at this level, man. And I don't know who did the evaluation on him, but one eyeball look at the dude told me he couldn't play at this level. He's just not big enough, man. And I don't know. A lot of people think I'm an idiot and don't know what I'm talking about, but everybody's like, well, he's so athletic. Well, so's a tight end. You want a tight end playing center? I mean, what the hell? I mean, he's just not there's just a certain level of size and power that's required at this level. He didn't have it. So good for him, I guess. And interesting to me that a former four-star like Peyton Kirkland winds up at a Miami, Ohio, which says, I'm not sure what it says. Maybe he was overrated. Maybe he didn't have the work ethic. I don't know. But a big drop from, his first two stops, Miami of Ohio. But hey, I hope it works out for all of them. And we will fill our spots with better players.
Today's episode is brought to us by Macaulay Capital Fractional CFO Services. Is your business looking for financial guidance and support but not yet big enough to hire a full-time CFO? Well, we have a solution for you. Hiring a fractional CFO who can work with your business on a part-time basis. You get the benefit of having a seasoned financial expert on your team without the commitment or expense of a full-time hire. And here's the best part. It's likely that a partnership with Macaulay Capital will be a win-win situation, meaning that your business will make more money from the guidance of a fractional CFO than the total cost of partnering with us. For more information or to set up a meeting, please visit MacaulayCapital.com. That's MCCAULEY Capital.com. You are going to take a break from work in February. I know one plan we have, and that's to go to the Hungry Toad in Boulder, one of our favorite spots, and a sponsor of this podcast. What are you going to order when we go to the Hungry Toad?
I was thinking maybe we'll go. I'll come up. Maybe I'll even stay over tonight in Boulder. We'll go a couple of days in a row. We'll get different stuff. We'll try everything.
Okay.
You see what really works for us. We got to do dessert. We didn't do dessert last time.
We did not, and so we're gonna have analysis following that visit to the Hungry Toad.
Maybe I'll get a hotel room up there within walking distance, and I'll try all the beers too.
Okay, there you go. The Hungry Toad, bringing a taste of England to Boulder since 1991. At the Hungry Toad, they serve up hearty homemade fare from their scratch kitchen, paired with a brilliant selection of British wines. They're the perfect spot for friends and family to gather, relax, and enjoy the warm, welcoming atmosphere. They are mad about football at the Hungry Toad, both European footy, which is William's favorite, and CU football and women's soccer. The Hungry Toad, the local pub that's not on Pearl Street. And so we will have another report coming from our favorite establishment in Boulder soon.
We do appreciate our sponsors, so thank you to the Hungry Toad and Macaulay Capital as always. Before Colorado departed for San Antonio to continue their prep for the 2024 Alamo Bowl, Travis Hunter and the Heisman Trophy were in the CU Event Center for Colorado's non-conference men's basketball finale. We got to see Travis Hunter show off his athleticism with some amazing dunks in the CU Event Center, including an alley-oop from Shedeur Sanders. That was pretty cool. You almost wish it was like a big conference game like CSU there, so you'd have a packed house. But that seemed like a fun event. I wasn't able to get there, but Oliver Hayes, who's down there, was covering that.
And the crazy thing was that half-court turnaround shot.
Yeah,
that had nothing but net. I was like, holy crap! And then, like on all the various national media shows, they're all talking about this guy's unbelievable. He and I think this reinforces, him winning the Heisman, that he's such an incredible athlete that he can do this kind of thing. And Shedeur was there too, and I think they had a lot of fun with it. And I think it's really smart. They're supporting the basketball team, just sort of building up excitement for all CU sports and, getting the word out. Now, I think also it builds up the fan excitement, but I also think it underscores and reinforces that Prime ain't going anywhere, man. If a guy was leaving, what does he care about the basketball program and going there and all that kind of stuff? So that's just a thought I had about it. But I just thought it was a heck of a lot of fun, and sometimes we just got to calm down about all the NIL and transfers and just enjoy the freaking fun of it, man.
It is fun right now. That is for sure. And it's fun seeing guys like Julian Lewis part of the mix now. And he was there with the team. And there's a handful of guys that they should be midway through their senior year of high school. In Julian Lewis's case, midway through his junior year of high school,
Yeah.
that it's gotten so accelerated that you want to get that early start. And so part of me is kind of sad that they don't get that experience as a high school player, but it's fun to see them get that early start at Colorado. And it really seems like the veterans have kind of taken them under their wing again. I know Coach Prime doesn't like the word culture, but there's such a big difference now as opposed to when he first got here in that sense. And so I think it really is beneficial for these guys to kind of get their first taste of things. And there's even been some well-off media footage of some of these guys. Any takeaways you had with those guys joining the roster?
Well, I think it's priceless to get in, this rule that allows them to come in and practice for the bowl season is priceless to them. And, it means that they get to do their first practices without the burden of going to class and figuring out where things are on the campus and all this kind of stuff, and it also gives them an idea when they go up against these bigger, older guys. They're like, oh, a little bit eye-opening, and then that probably motivates these guys a little bit to work a little harder in the winter time, because when they come in for winter conditioning those first week or two, they probably don't quite understand what it takes at this level, but now they get in before that and they get to see it firsthand. And so I think, and plus they get to, they get to see how practice works, how the meetings work, what's expected. And so when they go into spring ball, there won't be any wasted time. So I think it's a huge advantage to these guys all the way around. And, Chauncey Gooden and Alexander McPherson caught some eyeballs. Chauncey Gooden went a little bit viral, actually for beating McPherson on a rep. But then I think at one of the press conferences, you guys, I think you had Charlie and can't remember who the other guy was there, and you asked him who stood out.
Ben Finistad was there.
Yeah. They both said Alexander McPherson, the big defensive end. So watching that kind of stuff is a lot of fun, and I think you see the kind of mentality that these guys bring. I mean, Chauncey Gooden is not messing around, man. He is here to be serious and play football and win and play, and so it's also interesting, watch, like, I watched the couple of reps of him or against Davis Swain, last year freshman. And it's just sort of interesting. You can see what's great about Chauncey Gooden, but his technique is so raw. He got beat a couple times because he set too far to the outside initially, and they have to learn that you can't make those mistakes at this level. You've got to do everything perfect, and so you got to work that technique. So that's another good. You get your ass kicked by a guy up here, and you're like, hey, gee, you know what? I never got my butt kicked before. And if you're a competitor, that's going to wake you up, and you get good coaching, and he got beat on the inside move, and I saw Coach Loadholt was right there talking to him, and the other thing I liked about that particular video was Coach Lewis and Coach Dancy were just still in mid-season form, politely asking, could we get back to what we're doing? And by politely, I mean with lots of words you can't use in church. But it's just fun to watch and exciting. And that was a little bit still going on in Boulder, and now they get to go down and have some fun before the game. And I like that Coach Prime is keeping a business attitude, because I've seen teams go to these bowl games, thinking, hey, it's a big party, and not take it seriously.
Yeah. It's been a mixture of both. They got into San Antonio on Monday afternoon. Got settled in, and they've been practicing at UTSA, which is not too far away from the Riverwalk. Both teams are staying on the Riverwalk, the media hotels down here. I got to head over to the Alamo Dome after this, and that's walking distance. That's one of the nice things about this bowl game, is that so much stuff is close together. They're going to do a pep rally tonight on the Riverwalk, and so that's always a fun event. But yeah, no, they by all accounts, they've been practicing really hard. They did go to SeaWorld yesterday. We're recording this on Thursday, on Christmas Day. Yeah. And that was a fun event. There were 7 Buffs that got to get in the water and interact with dolphins, even take a ride on the dolphins. And we were allowed in as media members, even got to take a photo with those dolphins that are.
Your lovely wife took some really nice pictures.
She did. So that was a fun day. It was just good to see them have some fun out there. And I don't know if you saw the well-off media video yesterday, but Coach Prime has still got it. They went over to the Carnival games, and the first one was drop, the ball into the basket and keep it in there.
Yeah.
First attempt, he gets both of them in there,
Yeah.
and he picks out a Pikachu with a Christmas hat on that he wants as his prize. And at that point, William, I'm thinking, okay, did they give him some special balls because he's Coach Prime and they want him to win? Well, then Travis Hunter steps up and Shedeur Sanders steps up and Bucky steps up, and they're not able to do it. And then they go over to the basketball game, which, it's got those rims that if you miss it by an inch, it's going to bounce off, 6 feet. The players are all struggling to get it in there. Coach Prime, first attempt, swish.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty incredible. We know that he is one of the best athletes in the world's history, and even at a carnival, he can show that.
Well, and it's good to remind people. It's like everything we've seen from Travis Hunter, and still, Deion Sanders, man, in his prime, was, I don't know if there's been anybody at all like him. There's that current guy in baseball, but he doesn't play football. So I don't know. There have been lots of guys that were super dominant in one sport, but nobody I can ever recall being super dominant in both sports and playing both sides of the ball and everything else. So it's nice to be reminded. Even us old guys.
As he reminded too when he switched that shot that he was all-state as a basketball player in high school.
Yeah. Fun times. It's good to get out and see some different things and have some fun with it. And I'm glad you got to go out and see some of that.
Yeah, and credit to Coach Prime, he got on the roller coaster too. It didn't sound like he enjoyed that too much though. So it sounds like he needs to stick to the carnival games. And it's funny because while we were waiting for the team to get off the buses, Rick George came the other direction, and he said he had been hanging out at SeaWorld all day, had a big box of popcorn, had a big smile on his face. I didn't peg Rick George to be a big roller coaster guy, but it seemed like he had a wonderful Christmas at SeaWorld as well. He's enjoying life as he should be these days.
Is that one of those ones that hangs down below the rail and twists all around?
It kind of drops you down. They have different rides at the SeaWorld, yeah. So, but Rick George also did something that was really cool. Is Coach Prime came to him and said, "Look, we're going to make these guys. We want these guys to play in this ball game,
right?
But they're risking their future here." And so being able to, get an insurance policy on these guys and protect their future was something Rick George is willing to do. And, you talk about there being signs that Coach Prime is not going anywhere. And, I think Rick George is a big part of that because he's giving Coach Prime what he needs to run the program that he wants to run.
Yeah, and I think that this is, going to be the future of the sport. You want to add, I think it has. I don't know what you pay for these in terms of premiums. It's probably somewhat pricey, but I think in the long run, you get more out of it by having your stars play in the bowl games or in the playoffs or whatever. And so I think, and it's also an investment, and I think it's a thing you can, and probably soon, any smart team will do it. But it's something you can sell to transfers or whatever too. That we're going to take care of you, not only in terms of our medical facilities and everything else, but we'll get an insurance policy for you and things like that. So, it really just shows that we're taking care of our players. And again, like you said, that Rick George is giving Coach Prime everything he needs to do whatever he wants to do with these guys. And I think it means a lot to me that all these guys are playing and not opting out. And so I think it's just a quality gesture by him to do that.
We touched on this a little bit earlier. How important would it be for them to get to 10 wins, to win their first bowl game since 2004 as a program in terms of catapulting this program? Or is what's going to happen in 25 going to happen in 25 no matter what happens on Saturday at the Alamo Bowl?
I think to some extent, one thing is divorced from the other. I think, 2025 is about what you get in the transfer portal and putting everybody together in spring ball and fall camp and whatever. But as you go into winter conditioning, I think there's a lot of levels where the 10 wins is a big damn deal, and I think national perception is one of them. And I think it's important. I mean, some people say, who cares what they think nationally? But, after all the grief this program and Coach Prime took to get that 10th win in season 2 validates, I think, what he's doing here and how he's doing it. And there's a huge difference. A 10-win season is a monumental thing, and it's something you remember down the road, like you don't quite remember a 9-win season, and I think it gives the team a perception of itself. You're trying to build a winning culture here, and so you want to win every game you possibly can. And I think when you come back off of a win, everybody's happier. They're more involved in the program. They can't wait to get back started again after the break, and it gives everybody kind of a boost of momentum. It gives us another trophy to put in our legacy room. I think you use it as recruiting momentum, team momentum. You get to say we're the Alamo Bowl champions. We won 10 games, and I think it allows us to make an argument that we're one of the top 2 teams in the conference, regardless of Arizona State and what they do. But I think it's important on a lot of different levels to get that win. And maybe not the least of which is that you just want to be a winning program. I mean, if we're ever complacent enough to where losing a game is okay with us, that's not good.
Yeah, you mentioned Legacy Hall. In Legacy Hall, there's a big monitor, a video monitor that has a touchscreen on it, and you can pull up all the brick games in the history and watch highlights of that. And then you keep walking down, and there's all the brick games with the score on them to your left. And I think this would be a brick game victory.
Maybe, yeah.
It's like kind of in the context too of like, what's happened in recent years and where they are now, and how this would feel for the program going into the offseason. I think you said it perfectly, though. Like, I don't know how much of an impact this has on next year, but I do feel like for just where this program's been, where it is now, and where it wants to be, that this would be, I think, a brick-worthy game.
And I think it gives your team a little bit of swagger when they come back for winter conditioning, which is a drag sometimes. Get up at 5 a.m. and bust your hump, and nobody's watching. So nobody. But I think it gives you a little bit of that swagger. We're a bowl team. We beat another 10-win team, and it just gives you all kinds of advantages. I don't. There's something to be said that you can learn things from losing, but I'd rather learn things from winning.
Yeah. Well, kind of along those lines, there really hasn't been a brick victory, even though they won 9 games yet this season, has there? I mean, there's not that one that you point to?
No, I wouldn't think so. I mean, I honestly, I think that first win a year ago against TCU down there should have been one. I don't know if it was or not, but I think, that first big win over a ranked team, everybody's thinking we're going to get our ass kicked and we won it. I think that should have been one, but I think there's nothing. I went into this season really thinking, well, I predicted 9 wins. We got 9 wins, so nothing really surprised me. I thought we'd beat Nebraska, but we didn't. But maybe a win over Kansas would have been one, or that if we'd have beat Nebraska might have been one. But yeah, I don't think that's one of the interesting things about this season. With 9 wins, there's not really any one signature win. The one that sort of stands out.
I guess Baylor would maybe be the one if you had to pick one because of how it ended. Yeah.
I was going to say Baylor because of the way it ended, but I wouldn't call it because they're not a very good team. I mean, they're good. They're not a crap team, but I don't know. I mean, most of the brick games you look back, we beat a ranked team, or it was on the road or some kind of substance to it. Yeah. We like the 20-10 over Nebraska in 1986, and we hadn't beat them in 20 years. And they were ranked number 3 in the nation or something. It was a huge upset. Those are the kinds of games, and part of the reason we didn't. I don't know. The conference isn't that great this year, and so we didn't. The teams we beat, we didn't beat anybody that's top 10 or anything like that, and because we didn't play anybody. But so I don't know. I don't know if this is one or not. I tend to feel like those ought to be more important, maybe, than just a run-of-the-mill Alamo Bowl.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's a good debate for sure.
Yeah. I think if we'd have beat Kansas or beat. I think if we'd have beat Kansas and that catapulted us to 10 wins and got us in the playoffs, Now you're talking about something, right? This one, I don't know. I know I just got done saying we need to win this, but in a sense, it's kind of an afterthought award game. I don't know. I wouldn't give it a brick personally.
Okay. Outside of a win, is there
And
anything that
and
matters
it's
to
not
you on Saturday?
and it's not a rival team. I mean, we haven't played BYU since 1988, so who gives a damn, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I just don't see the things there. Like big rival, top five team, something like that. But yeah, I think a win. What I want to see is I want to see us come out with an attitude and play with hunger and desire. Uh, I want to see a defense come out playing like mad dogs and just gang tackling. And I just want to see us come out with fire in our belly and an attitude and play like we want this damn thing. Like it's important to us. And um, I want to see a well coached team. I want to see an improve. I want to see at least an attempt at the running game. I think we have two really good running backs that should be healthy, and don't know what we're going to do on the offensive line, but I'd like to see a run game. I'd like to see us dominate. You know, BYU is a good team; they're ranked ahead of us, and so along those terms, maybe that'd be a brick game. I don't know, but I want to see competence, and I want to see well coached, and I want to see prepared, and I want to see that thumping uh, I want to see a more physical team, I guess.
Like a lot of people, I want to see Jimmy Horn have a great send-off game, and I know that's kind of an emphasis that they have as well, and you got to be smart about it in terms of his injury. But I don't know if he's going to be 100% in this game, but it'd be nice to see that patented Jimmy Horn burst a few times and just kind of see him go out with a good game, because it's been kind of a frustrating season for him since that first game where he really shined.
And I don't know how Isaiah Augustov is doing in terms of the health of his legs and everything, but it'd be awful nice to see him get 100.
Yeah. And Michael Welch, I think he's going to be featured a lot in this
Yeah,
football game as well.
yeah. I
He
like how
actually,
thick he looked. I like how thick he looked in that interview. He's been
yeah,
working the weights.
yeah, for sure. Anything else that is going on in your world, William?
Well, I mean, I think I don't know, we talked a little bit in our last podcast about what we think will happen here. I think the two areas of concern to me are, who's going to play at right tackle and how well they'll do, and then who's going to play linebacker and how well they'll fill in for Nakai Hill Green. I think I feel fairly, I don't know, after the Utah or Oklahoma State game, I feel fairly okay with Resnick if he ends up being the right tackle. And I understand he's the one getting most of the first team reps, and he was pretty credible to me, against Okie State. Granted, that was a team I think that had quit for the season, but still, he showed that he can protect that right side and did a pretty decent job in the run blocking. And then I think seems like Gant might be the starter at that other inside backer spot, and be nice to see him have a big game and redeem his, not his whole career, I guess, but to finish out the season with a big game. But I think those would be probably would be where most people would have the most concern, is those two spots. What about you? What do you think were our areas of concern for this game?
Yeah, I think just in the trenches, BYU is a physical football team, and so you've got to come with the mindset they have in most games, frankly, outside of Kansas and Nebraska. I felt like, yeah, we had some slow starts offensively, but generally you felt like the guys, especially on the defense line, were ready to go in these football games, and that's going to be such a key for them going into this game. And you go against a lot of grown ass men when you play BYU, because you got guys that go off on a mission for 2 years and they come back, and they're just more mature. And you see these BYU players walking around the Riverwalk; they're well put together. So you got to come with the right mindset for sure.
Yeah, and I think my understanding is Amari McNeil's not going to play.
I believe that is correct. Yeah, I mean he was in a wheelchair pregame
Oh,
before Oklahoma State. Yeah,
and that's too bad because that's a big loss.
and he's moving around now. I don't want to
Yeah.
make it seem
Well,
like he can't come back.
I saw him on the sidelines on one of those videos, and he still had a leg brace on, but he was moving pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's too bad. I think that's a big loss on the defensive front, but we've got enough. I mean, technically he's not a starter, so we still got enough depth there, to have to play four guys deep on the defense at the defensive tackles, and like we talked about, we're pretty loaded at the ends. I don't think they don't get many sacks. They've only gotten 16 sacks on defense, but they only given up 16 on offense. So they're better on the other side. But I think that our defensive line, I think our edge players are going to feast on these guys and get those sacks. And we'll see what happens, And I think our defense coordinator will have us ready with 4 weeks to be prepared. I'm less confident in our offensive coordinator, but we'll see what happens.
Well, we know too next year they're going to have more touchbacks taken off the ball. They're bringing in Buck Buchanan in a high school leg to compete for kickoff specialist duties. So it's one more opportunity to see the likes of Taja McCoy and Gant and those guys just crack heads. Ben Finiseth on coverage teams. So I'm actually looking forward to that as well. I know that's not the strategy you want to go into 25 with, but they've been so fun to watch in coverage this year.
And I wonder if Gant will stay on that kickoff coverage team if he's starting linebacker.
Maybe not.
Not like it's a huge load, but we'll see. I don't know. I think there might be some surprises in the starting lineup in terms of guys who play a lot as well. Given that you got a full season under your belt and now 4 weeks of practice, some of these guys that were not ready earlier in the season ought to be ready now. So we might see some surprising guys really step up at this point.
Yeah.
Breakout game,
You've done a good job through the portal so far this winter, but there are guys that had a role on special teams that are no longer in the program. So it will be an opportunity. I think it's more all hands on deck now in these bowl games after you've gone through this portal window. So that part of it will be fun as long as they win, right? I mean, if they win, then it's fun to see guys that you haven't seen before play. But if you're losing, then you're frustrated that you didn't have all the tools there for the game.
But even at regular positions, like maybe a Davis Swain, gets more play time. Maybe he's more ready now, or one of those young offensive line guys, Yaya Atia maybe, is now ready after a full season and 4 weeks of practice to give you some reps inside. And I don't know. I just think that there might be some surprising, be like, oh well, and don't be surprised if anybody shows out, because a lot of these guys that guys continue to develop all season long, even if we don't see them on the field. When on a well-coached team. And I think we're a pretty damn well-coached team. And so I would not be surprised to see, all those young guys want to play too, man. And that's what you want to have is hungry dogs wanting to get off the porch.
Well, it's fun to be talking the day after Christmas about a Colorado football game, right?
Yeah.
that is yet to take place.
Yeah, not trying to drum up. Hey, well, let me build up some excitement about this guy that we beat Toledo for to play offensive line for us.
Yeah.
There were some pretty. We might have to do a retrospective one of these days. We'll have to talk about some of the crap we had to work with to try to get a decent show out of in the last few years.
Well, we need to just reflect on the season a little bit in a couple of weeks when we have a chance to fully reflect on everything, because there are so many unbelievable moments that we were going by it so fast. One of the cool things is that the Coach Prime documentary is going to come out, I believe, on January 7th is what they said.
Yeah.
And that is always a good way to kind of relive the season a little bit too, as a Colorado fan.
And I was just saying last night, that it'd be more fun this year because last year the series sort of had ended on a bad note, and I think there'd be more. They clearly they obviously waited for the last game to finish that up and wrap it up, so that'll be fun.
All right, William, thanks for doing this. I got to jet over to the Alamo Dome, and we're going to get a chance to talk to Pat Shermer and Robert Livingston. So look for that on BuffStampede.com later today. Appreciate you as always. Let's get together and wrap up this game once it's complete.
Talk to you next week. We'll get a new one up there.
All right. Thanks, William.
Okay.
And thanks everybody out there. Go. Were you going to say something?
Nope.
All right. Thanks everybody out there for tuning in.